Let me see the participants. Yeah, they're just joining.
I see. Yay.
Shall I guess, shall we start?
Yep, I think we'll be good. People will keep joining.
Great. Hi, everyone. Welcome to the HEC Paris Essays, a session of Essays workshop event. My name is Kanika Jain, and I'll be your host today. It is my pleasure to introduce Jennifer over here, who will be walking us through the HEC applications. Please feel free to drop your questions in the question and answer tab. Do not write it in the chat, please. Also, one request: if you have any questions related to the essays, please mention the essay 1 or 2, and then go ahead with the question. Jennifer, over to you. Thank you.
Okay. Awesome. Hi, everyone. I'm Jen T, CEO of ARINGO, and I am so excited to get to meet you guys and spend time with you and talk about the HEC Paris application. So ARINGO is an MBA admissions consulting firm. We've been around for about 20 years, and we work with clients getting into top MBA programs across the globe, including HEC Paris and many other European UK schools, as well as the US schools. So we help with everything from the strategy to scholarship assistance or scholarship negotiations to waitlist assistance. And so if you need anything, let me know. By the end of the presentation, you'll have my information. Always happy to help. All right, so as we get started today, I have a little bit of advice. So when we approach these essays, we want to make sure what we're presenting. And so you want to strategize before you start this process. HEC Paris has 5 essays, so you want to make sure that each question is showing a different perspective of who you are, and that it in one way or another relates back to your goals and kind of the next steps in your career, or telling them who you are. We kind of have a little bit of a motto of staying modest, honest, and mature during the process. And then a word of, so sorry, I have hiccups. Sorry. So if you are applying to a lot of different schools and you're trying to utilize the same essays for different schools, I would say don't do that. No copy and paste. If you feel like, oh, they're very similar, I could use them, rewrite the essay specifically for that school, making sure that you are writing in that school name. It happens so often that you have no idea. All right, so as we jump into HEC Paris specifically, you want to connect to the things that resonate with HEC Paris, what the admissions committee is going to be looking for throughout. So if you think about their curriculum, they have this customized phase with specializations and concentrations. They have a creative deconstruction lab. There are many different student clubs related to cultural, to social, and professional. So you want to check all of those out. They celebrate the different cultures that are there, and so they have different events that are hosted. They call them culture weeks, but it's not a weekly basis, but fairly frequently. And they are also host to the MBA tournament, which is kind of like MBA Olympics, which is really fun and exciting for MBAs across the globe to unite to kind of compete and defend the honor of their MBA program athletically. And then there are some other things that are key components of the HEC Paris academic journey. So they have the Horizons capstone as part of it. That's built in throughout the curriculum. And they have this outdoor leadership component that's also built in through multiple quarters that you're going to be doing. And so it's very unique and exciting and different. And I think it really kind of plays into their overarching theme of community and connection, and wanting to make sure that everybody kind of comes together and celebrates each other, and you're able to learn how to lead across these cultural differences. And then the last thing that is also unique to HEC Paris is the location. that you can study and find amazing brands and companies and firms right within Paris, connected across Europe, the UK, and the world. And so you can find it as one of the major hubs of the world. And so these are things to kind of keep in mind as we move forward going through these different essays and how you want to incorporate them into your essays. All right, so essay number 1. Why are you applying to HEC Paris now? That's a big part of it. And what is your professional objective, and how will that guide your career choice after your MBA? How will the HEC MBA contribute to the achievement of this objective? Woo, that's a lot to ask for one essay, but essentially start thinking of this as your career goals essay. What do you want to do? Who are you? What have you done before? What are you doing now? And what do you want to do in the future? And how does an MBA specifically at HEC Paris fit into this overall theme? And then make sure that we're kind of folding in the different parts of HEC Paris that make sense. And you want to demonstrate you've done your research and your networking so that they can see, like, even though this school might be thousands of miles away, that you really do want to be here and they're your number one choice. So I'm going to dive into an example. I did try to break this up a little bit just so that you guys can see instead of just throwing Word docs at you. So the first part of the question is, why HEC now, and what's your professional objective? So I have an example from a previous client that successfully got into HEC Paris. And so you can see that they started off their essay by answering the question. If you've attended any of my other events, I'm really keen on don't bury the lead. You don't want, like, MBA essays are not about this poetic moment. They want you to answer the questions. You have X number of words to be able to do this, or characters. And so you want to make sure that you're hitting the mark. Tell them up front what you're wanting to do and how you plan to do that in this essay. So this client, they start off with 4 years of experience in digital marketing, now seeking to pivot into a broader market. Marketing roles that emphasize brand building and sustainable strategy with clean technology sector. So, it's a lot. It was a big question. So with that being said, they gave you their background, 4 years of experience in digital marketing, and what they're wanting to do in the future, what their objective is, and kind of this underlining scaffolding of what they need from the MBA program. And then they go into, in the blue section, talking about HEC Paris. And so you'll see that they want to enhance their skills in different areas. Their MBA is going to help them with this transition and help with a combination of specialized courses, international exposure, leadership development, etc. So they've kind of outlined what their essay is about. And so now they're going to kind of dive into different parts of HEC that makes sense for them. So the next paragraph is about curriculum and the fundamental phase, which is like their core fundamentals of the program. And then they move into this other side, is the international exchange. Again, HEC Paris is known for being one of the most international MBA programs. And so being able to incorporate this part of it and being able to do the exchange, meet with people from across the globe, specifically in your area, is something that you can definitely bring up in this essay as well. Okay, so just a really quick FYI, we have example essays on our website, but if you wanted to see this one or look at it again later, go ahead and take a quick screenshot, because I'm going to switch slides to the rest of the essay. But if this is important, take a screenshot. And then also, while we're doing the Q&A, If you want to talk about a specific essay, it helps with sorting through the list. If you say essay 1, essay 2, etc. Okay, so this person went on to talk about the HEC Alumni Network, which again is another part of this connected community. And like they even, like for Alumni Network, they even have subgroups of interest for alumni, which is so cool. Like I don't think that any other MBA program has that kind of alumni connection. And then they want to talk about how they're going to be a student at HEC Paris and how these different clubs or activities like the marketing club and technology and sustainability club are going to help them with rounding out their experience and being able to be a leader and get connected professionally. And so then they close with kind of a blend of, this is why I want to be at HEC Paris, to help forward what I want to do in the future to transition or continue on in marketing management. So this is a successful essay. It is, they give you a lot of leeway with how many, I think it's 3,500 characters or about 500 words. And so with that being said, you have some room to really indulge HEC Paris and tell them why it's important to go to their school and what makes them your number one choice. So you have the ability to do that here. Before I move to essay number 2, any questions on essay 1? I'm happy to answer a couple of questions before we move. Ignish says, what does HEC Paris or any business school expect from students in a very specific, when they ask why MBA and why this business school? So they want to know why an MBA is necessary to get to that next step. And why is it an MBA versus like another master's or something else? And usually a lot of that is to either pivot geographically, to move into a new sector or function, or maybe even to continue on, but accelerate at a much faster rate. So tell them, hey, the reason that I want to get an MBA is because da 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 da. And then when they talk about why their business school, each one of these schools, the admissions committees are curating a class. And so they want the people that are part of this program to not only add value from a different sector, function, location, geography, whatever you want to say, but then also these different perspectives that they can bring into the class. But more than that, they want you to be there. And so if you're applying to schools, they want to see that you want to be part of this community, and they're not a backup option for you. So this is important for you to convince the admissions committee that it's worth them granting you a spot in the class and that you're going to actually show up. If they admit you and you don't come, then it hurts their yield numbers, which is tied to rankings. So you kind of have to convince them, hey, if I get admitted, I'm coming because of these specific things that I really want from your MBA. So hopefully that is helpful with that one. Next. Hi, is a freelance career of 4 years after working full-time for 4 years in digital advertising considered a gap in any sense? Is that any explanation? We can talk about this a little bit further when we go to the optional essay, but it's not, I don't think I would consider it a gap. If you didn't formulate your own or start your own business formally, then we can talk about like how you actually list that on your resume so that they can see you did freelance and then what projects you worked on and what companies and what your accomplishments were for them. And then somebody asked about, should you include something regarding your application? About reapplication in your essays. So there'll be a part where you can talk about reapplying and why. So you will not have to necessarily worry about that in essay number 1. You can worry about that either in the optional essay or if the school specifically has a reapplication essay. All right, so moving on to essay number 2. Remember, there's 5 of these things, so I will promise to be as efficient as possible. So this question, what do you consider your most significant life achievement? And the way that they phrase this is that you're allowed to really use anything from your personal, professional, or even maybe potentially like from like clubs or organizations, right? Like whatever you think that your significant life achievement was, this is your time to talk about how you made an impact and what you did to make that happen. So you want to make sure that the story shows what you were able to overcome. And then if you're struggling with figuring out how to do this essay, because remember, well, not you remember, but me, or I'm just saying, if you're not used to writing essays, it's okay to use like the STAR method as part of your essay process to make sure that you're telling the story as well. The essay example that I'm about to share doesn't do that, but I'm just saying as advice, it's optional for you to do that too. Like if you're really having a hard time figuring out how to start and make sure it's a succinct application or essay. Okay, so this client, they're all different, so just know that these aren't the same people. So this person says that their most significant achievement was taking on a key role in a rapidly expanding gourmet meal kit sector and then further scaling its potential, right? So they came, again, they didn't bury the lead, they told you exactly what they wanted to do. And then they were able to kind of add some supporting details to this. And then something that I thought that was important that they added was the last line of that first paragraph. When a critical performance marketing position in the sector opened up, I immediately expressed my interest to the leadership and seized this opportunity. So they were already kind of in this meal kit area, and they are meal food delivery system arena. And then they said, like, this is something I want to do. This is what I want to accomplish. And I see the hole in the market. So then next, they talked about what they did. Quickly adapted to the demands of this emerging industry and strategically shifted our media spending to focus on this new model. They were able to optimize their investments and achieving significant results through campaigns like seasonal harvest, holiday fest events, which led to a 35% increase in business during these key periods. Now, so this is, right, you're going to, in this, it could mirror something maybe on your resume. So I bet you this is part of their resume as well. But you're wanting to quantify this impact that you had. And so like, let's say that you started a charity organization or a nonprofit, and you were able to start the organization with one other person, and within 6 months, you were able to grow to 12 members. Right? Quantify it for them so that they can see beyond growing the membership what that really means or what that looks like. Okay, so the last part of this is that they were successful and they demonstrated their ability to lead, adapt, and thrive in a rapidly changing market. So the reason I like this phrase a lot is because it has a mirror effect to the MBA program itself, right? The MBA is fast. There's going to be a lot going on. You're switching classes every quarter. And this is showing these leadership and adaptability, showing her leadership and adaptability in this situation, and how that can kind of mirror what they would likely do in the MBA program as well. So it's exciting. Okay, so I'll leave the example up again. If you want to keep this, take a screenshot. For essay 2, if you share a personal anecdote, how do you quantify that? Well, good question. So I actually had a client last year that one of her significant life achievements was learning to ride a bike at the age of like 27 or something like that, right? Like in their 20s, which is typically a little bit rare or abnormal. But to her, this whole journey of being able to learn how to do something new was really important. And it opened her mind to different options and things like that, right? Like, and then the having the ability to ride her bike, she was able to have accessibility to more things. Now, I don't know, can you quantify like how many miles you pedaled or things like that? Obviously, there's a moment where you might not be able to quantify things, but you could say, I was able to do this, within 6 months. Giving them some relevance and helping build this picture is the more important part of this, right? Like, you're painting this picture for the admissions committee. They're sitting in a room trying to figure out, who you are and what you have. And then, again, like, you're trying to tell them what you've been able to do, and any sort of quantitative ability, or like any way to quantify it or better demonstrate what this picture looks like, is going to be helpful for them in envisioning that. And then ideally comparing it to, your potential as a student, as well as a successful alumni and graduate. All right, next. So what should be the time frame for an achievement? Can it date back 7 to 8 years? And if it represents a significant turning point in someone's life? I would say you can absolutely kind of reach back. I mean, there's books written by people who, people who started some famous food chain, right? Like, that they started, actually their first sale came from going door to door selling soda that was ice cold, right? Like, and that happened when they were like 8 or 9 years old. So that's a moment that you discovered a talent and realized that this is what you love to do, is to bring people something that they're wanting that they can't access all the time, or to be able to connect people with these unique experiences, right? So I don't think that there's a specific limit, but make sure that it is significant enough to go back that far. It could even be like moving to a new country and being able to make a new friend, or something like that. A lot of different options there. All right, essay 2. Can it be personal, like moving countries twice to show international exposure? Yes, Diana, fantastic. You read my mind, or I read your mind, whichever way, it all happened. But yes, you can talk about this life achievement of being successful in an environment that was unknown to you and being able to succeed. I would say that hopefully there was some, I don't want to say, like, keep saying like cultural things that you had to go through, but hopefully there was something fundamental that was different about this new country, having to learn a new language, being able to be successful at school in this new language, or whatever it might be. Yes, it can be moving countries, but make sure it brings in that significant life achievement. All right, we will move on to essay number 3. Leadership and ethics are inevitably intertwined in the business world. Describe a situation in which you have dealt with these issues and how they have influenced you. Okay, so this is something where I've had a lot of clients have to do some soul searching, or maybe just some memory searching. I'm like, oh my gosh, what moment do I have that I could consider to be, ethical? And I think that it happens more than we think, or more than we like to acknowledge. And hopefully you're making split decisions that are ethical just because it's habit or it's part of who you are, right? Like, you wouldn't even realize that it was, an ethical situation at the time, but you came back and you're like, oh, wow. I guess that could have turned out different. So you can consider situations that were personal, professional, extracurricular. And then you want to make sure that you're showing the decision that you made versus what you could have also decided on, right? Like juxtaposed to, if I wasn't ethical, then this is the way it could have gone, or what I could have done. And then also what you learned. And so I've had somebody ask, should I use a situation that was where I was unethical or my ethics were challenged and I failed? I think it's a touchy situation. It depends on what you learned, when it was, and how you recovered from it. So I think that, like, I had somebody 2 years ago who was part of a cheating scandal on campus. And it wasn't necessarily like that they were the one who found or sourced the cheating, but they let somebody copy off their paper. So they were part of it and they were implicated because they didn't object to it. So I think that that's a great story of saying, like, even though I didn't actually cheat myself to gain the advantage, I still was part of it, right? And there's obviously lessons learned there. So I think that's a situation like college years ago. It's obviously probably something on their transcript, but or potentially, if it's there, it's definitely a great situation to talk about in this essay. But there's definitely some times like where you could potentially use a situation where maybe you didn't make the best decision. So this example that I have here is, of somebody who their commission essentially was tied to an internal spreadsheet, and something had changed where the math was not in their favor, but it was like a market shift, like an upper level decision that made it shift, and it kind of harmed them. And so, like you can see, in spring 2024, my budget allocation was increased despite the consistent sales performance. The overall performance dip caused my ROI metric to fall to 1.19. And then obviously they talked to other people about it, and they said, like, common practice is just to round that up and submit it. And it was just something that people did. They didn't really talk about it. And this person talks about how it was an ethical dilemma for them, and they decided to maintain their integrity. And it didn't like pay off, right? It wasn't like a boss recognized this and said, hey, thanks for being honest, and gave them the bonus, or the payout. That it was that he still got paid less, right? So just because you do what's right doesn't mean it's always rewarding. And I think that that's kind of the conclusion of this essay is, this experience taught me that genuine leadership involves making difficult choices that align with your values, even though those choices come with personal or professional costs. So I think that that's a really good lesson for people to use, or to have, right? And to be able to share. Okay, so we'll go to questions. Okay, so okay. Anonymous asks, can one be brutally honest with essay 3, where the truth is that I'm struggling with ethics for work? For example, working in marketing and marketing products you don't necessarily consume or promote in your own life, like maybe alcohol. It's interesting, right? I think it depends, right? Like, is that, and like, again, this is an example of consuming alcohol. Alcohol isn't technically ethically wrong to drink or have. It's legal as long as you meet the age requirements, and obviously do so responsibly. So it's your personal ethics. And then maybe also, is alcohol a part of your main part of your job? Then it might be a question of, I wouldn't want the adcom to be sitting there at the table reading this and being like, then why would you take a job where you're marketing something that you never believed in? And I think that that can be the story, right? Like, is that I made a decision to take this job for one reason or another, and I feel conflicted myself because I don't necessarily believe in the product, and this is why I left. If it's your current role, I think it's too tricky, to be honest. That's something that I would be really worried about, like trying to address something that is current, because it brings everything into question. And I don't know that you necessarily get to talk about what you learned because you're still in the situation. So it's something that maybe early on in your career, you took this great job, great money, but you realized that it wasn't something that aligned with who you are and it conflicted with your values. And that's why you shifted to the next place. I don't know. That's how I would probably do it. That was just, off the cuff here. So, always, we can always chat offline too. So let's see. Okay, so I see that people are also writing in the chat. So let's see real quick. Please use the Q&A for questions that you want answered during this session so that I can make sure I do that. Some of these I feel like I probably did answer. Somebody said that they couldn't see the slide for essay 2. So I can go back real quick. This is the essay for number 2. Hopefully you can grab it, do a quick screenshot, and then be able to move through. Oh, so maybe multiple people. Can you guys see it now? Sorry, sorry we're doing this live. Can other people see this essay too? I see it on my screen, but I don't know. Okay, so hopefully that worked. If not, we can work that out later. Okay, so now we'll move on to essay number 4. So this is where HEC kind of takes a little bit of a leap and starts going really creative. So imagine a life entirely different from the one you lead now, and what would it be? So this is your opportunity to, again, talk about a new perspective of who you are, your personality, your skills, your hobbies, something you do extracurricular, something you're excited about, passionate about. Oftentimes, like I kind of say, like if you're like one of those people who are like a data nerd, but yet you have this creative side, so then this is a great opportunity to kind of like showcase that you have both quant and creative skills. But yeah, so this is where we start to verge off and things get a little bit different. But you have the ability to, write something really fun and exciting that will be helpful for the committee to get to know you better. And I mean, like I've had people write about becoming like a professional cricket player, people talking about becoming a chef. Like there's a lot of really fun things that you can definitely do. So let's see what this person said. So if I were to live a life completely different from the current one, I would imagine myself as a screenwriter in the film industry. I've always been a great enthusiast of both books, films, and drawn to the creative process and the way that stories can be brought to life on the screen. So I really liked this comment about like drawn to the creative process. Emphasizing things like this really help the committee, again, get to know you and create this picture of who you are that maybe they don't get from a resume or your goals, right? So I think that like next they talk about their love of storytelling, and an appreciation for narratives inspired by true events. So this is, again, like how you're going to be a strong member of the community by appreciating other people's perspectives and by true events, right? Like it's interesting. So historical fiction, maybe, or nonfiction, I don't know. And then, kind of closing with the alternative life, they would like to explore the nuances of the human experience, weaving them into scripts that not only entertain, but also provoke thought and inspire change. So here you have like this impact that they want to make with this new life or different life. And it's really interesting. So again, there is no quote unquote wrong answer on what you should or shouldn't use, but try to make sure that it furthers one, either your specific skills or talents, or two, this other part of you that makes you a better person to be in class with. That makes sense. All right. So any questions on essay number 4? There's one on essay 2. So I'll go back to essay 2 later because there's a couple of them. Somebody asked, can we write about a humanitarian initiative which we would like to spend more time, say becoming a full-time women's rights activist, but due to work you cannot contribute as much as you want? Yeah, absolutely. So if there's something you're passionate about and you wish that you could find a way to spend your days doing that, then absolutely use that as part of this essay, right? Like if you're like, I only get to spend, one day a month rescuing dogs, but I would really love if that were my life. What I would do would be to create some sort of creative process for how you help dogs, get adopted and making sure that they're living their best life or something like that, right? Okay, so somebody just really quickly asked, I'm working remotely in my home country, but my team and office is based out of my country. Will that be considered international experience? Yes. You want to use that as international experience because you're working with people from a different country, different time zone, different cultures, etc. And we can talk more about how you put that together. Do you need to put why you don't do this now? So why you're not pursuing it? This alternative pathway? I don't think so. I think that you can just say, like, in another life, this is what I would have done. You don't really have to talk about why you don't do it now, because I think that starts going to a different direction. Okay, so now we're moving on to essay number 5. Please choose from one of the following essays. What monument or site would you advise a first-time visitor to your country or city to discover, and why? Certain books, movies, and plays have an international success that you believe to be undeserved. Please choose an example and analyze it. What figure do you most admire and why? And why do you choose from any field, or like why you choose any field? Arts, literature, politics, or business. Okay, so they let you choose your own adventure here. With these types of questions, again, you're getting to show a little bit more of who you are and why you strategically choose one of these. One is if you have something that stands out automatically, you're like, I absolutely have this monument or this place, this park, this something that, stands out to you that you always bring people to, then, awesome. If you're passionate about one of these, fantastic. If you're not really sure, I think that picking somebody you admire, somebody that you emulate or like you would like to aspire to be similar to, could be a great option. So I kind of want to go back to this park moment because if you want to talk about outdoors or something like that, you can draw a parallel to the HEC Paris campus, which is supposed to be this really great town I've never visited. So if you go, you have to tell me more. But this, kind of point town outside of Paris, and supposed to be like really beautiful places to explore, gardens, etc. Plus, they also have this outdoor class. So you can kind of combine all these different components as to, if somebody was to visit, this is what I would do, like where I would take them. And I can't wait to explore, the outdoors at HEC Paris with this, and this, right? So again, you want to choose which best suits you, your skills, and your personality. You want to show a different dynamic of who you are. And again, there's no wrong choice. So, you can choose which ones you want to, like, best resonates with you. I didn't put in an example because, again, like, we're starting to go on these create your own adventure, and there's not necessarily like a very specific way that you have to do things or structure things. So, and for sake of time, because there's so many. So essay number 6, if there's anything else you would like to share with us that has not already been shared elsewhere in your life or in your file, not your life, please feel free to use this space. They give you a lot of room, 6,300 characters. And in this space, I usually say, like, anything that you feel like needs an explanation. We never want an admissions committee to assume anything. We want to control the narrative and what they understand and what they know about us. So if there was a career gap or break or freelance, this is an opportunity to say during this time, especially because a lot of people going into the MBA right now, were graduating and working very beginning of their careers during COVID. Like, they understand things happen, life happens. And so you just want to explain what happened. So during COVID, I was laid off and I wasn't able to find the next job. So I started doing freelancing. You'll see this on my resume. I was able to work for 4 different companies and do X, Y, and Z. Somebody else, I believe at some point in time, said I took a work break to be able to do MBA applications and GMAT and all that. How do I address that? So I don't necessarily like that to share that specifically, because when you think about it, everybody else who is applying is doing this with a full-time job, and still being able to make it happen. And I get it. Like, there are specific jobs where this would be impossible. So I think that the way I would phrase it is that, there's some reason you needed the break, and that you're transitioning to a different career. And maybe this is like the whole moment of, I realized that this wasn't the life I wanted to, live. And so I'm pivoting into this arena. While I'm searching for a job, I'm also doing this. And so if it's a long period of time, you want to have something on your resume of what you had to offer, as far as like something productive. So, and I always use this scenario, which is kind of maybe out of touch at this point in time, but I always had this admissions committee member who, if there was a gap, they'd be like, what are they doing? Sitting at home playing video games? Well, we don't want them to think that. So you want to tell them what you were doing during that time, especially if it wasn't like resume worthy. Like that, during this time while I was searching for a job, I was also helping friends with a startup, or I was volunteering, or whatever it is. So fill in the blank for them so that they can understand that. And then making career transitions, right? So again, like, if there's this moment where all of a sudden your career goes in this very different direction, tell them why, right? You'll see that I shifted from consumer goods to tech because of X, Y, and Z. And again, like, that could very easily be the job market. So just make sure that they, like, if there's something that just feels like you need to give it a little bit more, this is your opportunity. So GPA exam scores out of the normal range. So HEC Paris, typically their average GMAT score is close to 690-ish. So that's like 635-ish on the new Focus edition. So if it falls, about 20 points below, then maybe it's worth addressing. And I think it's easy to, like, especially if you have a strong GPA, but maybe not a great exam score, then you can talk about like, hey, I am like this is what's been happening. Really quickly, can I get a time check to make sure how much time we have left? Because I really like to talk.
We are actually just 45 right now. It's 10:45.
So we're done? Like this is the end of our
Almost,
time?
yes. Yep, I'm afraid
Okay.
so.
So there are lots of questions. So again, like screenshot this if you want an example of what the optional essay could look like. We have examples on our website at aringo.com. Oh, another screenshot to talk about different things. And then I'm going to put up my contact information so that you can use this QR code or email me and schedule a time to chat more about your application. HEC Paris, such a long application, but I'm here to answer. I know that we have more questions that I didn't get to. I really appreciate your time and I'm happy to answer questions offline. All right. So thanks everyone for your time and look forward to connecting with you soon.
Thank you, Jennifer, for joining us. Hope everyone had the questions answered. Thank you.
Thanks. Bye.